Okay, let's talk about kick drums that get mushy. This is a real problem with any genre of music where the kick drum is a defining element in terms of like attack and punch or whatever stupid word you can come up with there. Dance music comes to mind right off the bat. So does metal, although not all metal really does that these days. Some metal just is mushy, and that's part of the sound too. It turns out for the entire series of videos up to this point that I didn't have the kick drum mic on, and part of that's just because I'm an idiot, and I saw Michael Wagner do something similar, so I don't feel as bad. But this band wanted a kind of a Zeppelin style kick drum anyway, and I could hear that just fine from the overheads. I guess I can show you that now, just so you can kind of won't totally think I'm a complete moron. At least not about this stuff. Okay, so we have just overheads. Turn those down so I don't kill you guys. Sorry. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we cheated on this record. We did the cymbals separate from the rest of the drums. And so that gives us some interesting mix options if we chose to use them. But as you heard there, the kick drum is plenty there, at least in terms of like the definition, the natural body of it, like in a natural way. It doesn't really have much Steven Slate samples, kind of, boom. That's definitely not the Black Album sound. That's a real kind of indie sound. But usable. We just won't ever have a big bottom. And the drummer especially was adamant. He did not want the stadium kick drum. He doesn't like it, which is one of the first times I've ever heard that. But anyway, when we're doing this mix here, I noticed that, let's see, oh yeah, my kick drum's muted. Oopsie. I don't feel too bad because, again, our mixes, well, it wasn't terrible, but I would like to get a little bit more in there. But what I noticed was, as we were John Bottomish, but it was maybe too muddy. I think we took it too far, and I wanted some punch. So let's check out, I hate that word, I really do. I wanted some impact, let's call it that, which is equally useless. And here's what I had before. Turn it back down. Okay, and the drum sounds changed somehow from the other mix. Who knows what I was up to? That's not important. Ignore the snare right now because it's not ready. But what I'm hearing is a kick. It's you can hear it, you can't feel it, but it's just lacking. The song should push forward a little bit, and this happens a lot with transients. Everybody knows you add a hi-hat, it's louder, faster. It makes the song feel faster. And this kick drum is part of that. If you get that, we get it just right, and it'll really add to the rockiness and the excitement of the song. Without it, and right now, I mean, the kick's in there, and we could get away with it, and maybe no one would notice. But I really want them to at least notice the excitement level. I think they would be missing that. So what I did is I turned the kick on, and let's make sure, okay, and started listening. And if I turn this up, let's actually make sure I got all my limiting and all that. See, I turned everything off. Let's work a little bit backwards here. Actually, work forwards. What am I doing? Okay, now let's see what's going on. Okay, our snare is there. Now, it's real easy. Again, I mixed this knowing full well the drummer did not want a really hot kick drum. But let's go ahead and just push it and see how big and mean of a kick drum we can get. I don't like that kick drum right there. And he had a fine kick drum. I mean, I shouldn't say like the drum itself, but I just don't like the way that fader sounds. I'm not sure exactly what to do about it, but it kind of sounds like when you're at the club and you go in at the club and you go to the bathroom and you still hear the kick drum pounding, but it's in that kind of like down the street kind of way. I don't want to call it distant, but that's kind of what I'm talking about. Maybe just the lack of attack. And that's the other thing this drummer hates is attack. And what are you going to do? At least in that Black Album style attack. But what I was noticing was adding this didn't add anything noticeably, and you can tell why. It's a good sounding kick. It's just a whole lot of sustain in there. And we can EQ the piss out of it and all this business. But what I reached for is a transient designer. And I just turned the attack way up. Now, what's that going to do? Well, that's going to give us quite a bit more level. Let's watch and see. if I said it right. Okay, so we're at, without it, we peaked at minus 19.3. With it, we peaked at minus 9. So we added about 10 decibels right there by cranking the attack up. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit before. Our brick wall limiter sets a threshold, so to speak, and we cross this magic line, in comes the nukes. We're done for. Now, in this particular instance, if I keep this fader really loud, we will be slamming into this limiter, which can be a cool sound. Hey, let's look. It's not working too hard. It's only knocking about a decibel off, but I got a feeling that our Studer is doing something. Okay, so it's not doing too bad either. What's Soniformer doing? Okay, stupid Cubase bug. Okay, so as is, we're not doing too bad. Now, when we add all the other tracks, I guarantee you we'll be knocking about 3 or 4 decibels off that kick drum, and that's bad. And this is all part of the understanding of that gain structure, that we have this line that we have, when we cross it, things are going to change. But if we fly under the radar, we can get away with doing whatever we want. And that's what I'm going to do with this kick drum here. All I've basically done is turned it from a super sustain-y kind of instrument where it's, boom, 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 almost 808-ish in some ways. Now I've turned it into something that's a lot more energetic, perky. I don't know. I'm just trying to avoid underage girl references here. So you get the point. Now let's. What I'm going to do is play the whole mix, and with the limiter and a 2-bus compression and whatever else I got going, all the silliness, I'm going to pull it all the way down, because remember we were doing the whole mix without it, and it didn't bother me till I didn't even notice last night when I was doing most of these. So let's go and slowly blend this kick drum in and see if we get anything good. And it's important to note that because I've transformed this kick drum and it is going to peak louder, that in essence what we've done is turn down the sustain. And I could have probably just used that button on the transient designer, but I just wanted more attack, so I just got what I wanted instead of taking out what I didn't want. Both philosophies seem to make sense, and they're all kind of random for me. But anyway, let's see what happens here. Oh, you know what that is now? That's a kick drum that's adding life to the song. And again, I'm just going to listen to the kick drum. And again, I'm on headphones, so who knows? Maybe this will translate to no one. But hopefully you're hearing this. I'm going to mute the kick drum. Definitely anemic. And then I'm going to hit play without the kick drum and we'll add it in somewhere. With kick drum. And I know I like that. And you know how I know I like that? Not because of meters or analyzing, 500 hertz on some complicated looking plug-in. None of that business. I know it because when I heard that, I started playing air drums. And if I do that, that means something's really good about this mix, and I shouldn't change anything. And, maybe I'll change my mind tomorrow. That's okay, but right now, I love it. So I never question that. Whenever I start feeling like the song is rocking, then it is, at least to me. And I don't know if I'm any good at predicting for anybody else, but I know I'm happy. And you can even tell in my voice I'm excited. Something happened with that kick drum. So now, the thing is, I guess the whole point of this video was really about mushy kick drums. And I really probably should pop up a dance music song or something like that, where step one is always the bass gets mushy, so I got to pull it down. And then step two is that kick is so loud it's hitting a limiter. And kind of mushing up, knocking the attack off and bringing up the sustain. And one of the best ways to do that is to reduce sustain on the kick drum. And I did that with the transient designer. And all this is pretty much, granted I didn't love the way it tracked. It tracked with a ton of sustain. But it kind of mimicked our problem we would have with a limiter if we had this really, really loud and we needed a pounding kick drum, which this song doesn't call for that. But another trick we could have done, and I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Oops, just bypass it. Is using a compressor with a longer release time. And let me go ahead and show you this trick. I don't know if the 1176 is a good choice because it has a really fast release, but let's just see what happens here. Okay, I've turned it up quite a bit now, and so it's a weird kick drum. It definitely doesn't sound like anything slamming. We didn't track it that way. We didn't want it that way. The drummer didn't, So kind of a weird taste we're dealing with it, which I say at least not typical tastes. Now, when I had this kick drum up like this, I mean, I can hear it real clearly, but it doesn't sound particularly good to me. Now, the deal is I want to slow the attack down on this compressor for sure to emphasize that attack. 1176 is just really, really fast, so I'm just going to turn the attack all the way to the highest setting, which is a 1, which makes 0 sense. But then the release is where it gets tricky, and we get mush when we have a release all the way up. So let's see what that's doing. Let's get it as mushy as we can, I guess, at first. Well, mushy as we can will be to have the fastest attack possible, so we'll start there. Now, if for some idiotic reason we were liking where that was going, again, it doesn't fit this song, but maybe some other song, this quantity, because I don't think the quality is right, but the quantity would be there, by slowing this compressor down so that once that attack, the kick goes boom, or I mean, what a terrible kick emulation, boom, damn, I suck at this. Anyway, when that compressor clamps, if it holds a little bit longer so that rumbly, sustainy junk at the end is being reduced, then that kick drum can take on a tightness to it. Again, we're calling it punch. I hate that word. But let me show you when we start pulling this release down. And I'm also going to slow the attack down. Again, let some of that, the good stuff through. Okay, here we go. Release going down. You hearing that? Again, I'm going to, the kick drum went from being boom, boom to more like boom, boom. It's still muddy, and I've got it up too loud on purpose. We're slamming probably everything wrong. It doesn't sound good, but I'm trying to show you this kick drum in context the best I can. There's no other way to do it because the limiters and all that 2-bus junk relies on a full mix. And that's a big problem, and it makes it hard to teach this stuff. So work with me here a little bit, but just realize that it's out of context on purpose so you can hear it. Okay, now that's just pure mush. Now watch when I slow this compressor down and say, here. The mush factor is reduced 1 billion, and to the point where I got a feeling even our 2-bus stuff is liking it a lot better. We don't really have a need for that kick drum that goes boom, boom. If we're going to do that on a pop song, like a drop it like a tut type junk, I hate that song. Anyway, if we're going to do that kind of thing, we'd have to do our arrangement where we don't have big old guitars and basses and all this business. It'd be almost, turns into a bass drop almost. So we'd have to be really careful with that. But anyway, by using either transient designer type plugins where we take the attack and just crank it way up and then readjust our levels so that we get that sound we need, which effectively makes pulls down the bad sustain. That's one way to tighten up a kick drum. Another way to tighten a kick drum up is simply to use a compressor and adjust that release so that it doesn't let go too fast. You know, when we're slamming snare drums, I like to use a fast release because the second that snare hits, I want to pull all that room up. I want to get that pumping to suck that room up and loud so we can hear it real clearly. In this particular case, though, I don't want to hear that on the kick drum because the kick drum's got the boom. So what we can do is emphasize the attack, but then clamp onto that release quite a bit. And I never did slow down the attack. So let's hear it. We can make it even tighter, I bet, by letting more attack of the kick drum through. So that kick drum is way more usable. And now I know I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I don't want to kick that damn loud. So let's readjust our levels here. That'll probably work. I think I like the sound of the transient designer better in this case, but that's okay. That's why I have both. But so yeah, if you have a mushy kick drum, my advice is add attack and pull it down a little bit. The whole point is to reduce the sustain a little bit because our limiter is definitely going to be adding sustain and possibly trimming off some of that attack anyway. So play with it. All right, guys. Bye.